You literally can't understand what he says. But I had to go back and I turned on the subtitles and it says, "The plans are in progress to pursue this peril." And I was like, what? But when you listen to it, it sounds like peril.
I can't help thinking, somewhere in the universe, there has to be something better than man. Has to be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ascension to Ten.
All right. Here we go. For
We're
some reason,
back.
that was super loud in my.
It's always
that song
loud,
was
man.
So loud.
It destroys my eardrums, headphones every time
Love
we do
it.
that.
Just love it.
It's popping, baby.
Oh man, here we are. Not much, man. I'm really looking forward to this one. Yeah.
I think this was
a lot more.
Yeah, this is kind of getting back to our roots.
Yeah, this was like getting us synced back together. I think Jad and I both felt like I felt like the last couple episodes were kind of off,
trash.
But the last episode of The Gray Man, I don't know, something about it. We just didn't feel like we.
Well, it seems like good movies
clickety clacked.
Good movies equate to bad episodes for us. It seems like so. The worse the movie is,
I don't know.
The better.
I mean,
it translates
the magnet
for us.
We got the magnet story out of Alien. So
Again, out of the magnet story. You've taken a break from bringing that up recently, though. It's been a while since that magnet story came up.
I had to sit on it for a while. But yeah.
Spenny, do you know why this episode might be unique, special in any way? I haven't told you this, but
no.
This is our first live audience. I have a live audience member off to my left here. My parents are in town, and so my mom,
are they
guest
watching
of the show,
you?
friend of the show. Yep, she is watching.
Awesome.
Now she can't hear anything because I don't have a headphone splitter or anything, so it's just my half of the conversation. So
well, we can't afford a second set.
Yeah, we can't afford to expand the set here. So, but this is our first live show here. Yeah,
that's special.
But it does remind me of a story that I don't think I've ever told, and I'm not sure I've ever told you actually.
Whoa!
Did you know, Spenny, that in college I was a radio DJ for my college station?
I feel like maybe. I knew this, but I don't know if I knew any stories. This was at Augie.
This was at Augie. Yeah. So
it wasn't like, like midnight to 2 or something.
Well, close enough. So the radio slot that I had 2-hour slot a week during the summer, Friday nights from 8 to 10:30 or something. Right. Okay. So every single Friday night of this summer, I spent in this tiny little
best social life.
Yeah, radio DJ booth with a friend of mine. And
that's awesome.
So how it worked is this is a college station, right? And so they had the rights to just local bands and a few other things, right? Right. And so the deal was we could have signed up for a show slot where we just played in-house music, but we were interested in playing our own music. Or music that we were interested in, right? Not original music that we made, right?
Sure.
So the deal was from our 8 to 10:30 show, half of that time could be spent with music that we brought in, but the other half had to be music that was in the studio, right? So music that they had rights to. We never played a single second of music that was in the studio. And so what would happen was we would burn a CD, a 45-minute set each every single week. So it was a fresh set every single time. And we didn't play a single second of what was actually allowed. So it was just, I don't know, it was kind of pirating in a way because we didn't obviously have the rights to this music. And
well, right, but who's
but
who's
yeah,
gonna turn you?
but
Do you think the FCC is gonna?
that's the thing. That's
listening
why
to?
I brought this up, is that
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the only person listening was my mom during these time slots. And, and so, and our set was, we would play progressive rock and kind of heavy metal music, right?
Right.
And my mom doesn't listen to that. So what I think
Sure.
I think what she did was she would tune in and then kind of turn the volume down during the music, and then
Of course,
when we would come
Just
back
wait for you
and
to
talk for a while, she would turn the volume up. And so that's pretty similar to what's going on here, when the sense that you can only hear half a conversation going on. And
right.
so
She'll probably enjoy it if there's some good reaction. I guess I
Yeah.
really got to step up my game
Well,
for this.
So the friend that I did this with, he had done it before, so he knew how to work all the controls and everything. We didn't get any tutorials, right? This is live radio that we just had access to the booth, right?
Yeah.
And so for the first several weeks, he ran the controls and stuff, and he showed me how to do it. And so my first time running the controls, and these controls it's a play, stop, and then you turn the mics on and off, right? That's it. This isn't high level stuff, but we were
Sounds familiar.
In addition to our requirement of playing in-house music, we were also required to either read ads or run, and these ads are kind of PSAs, get your heart checked,
right,
that kind of thing, or play pre-recorded. But we chose to just read the PSAs from this binder. And I don't know, I think we did that half the time too. We never really we never thought it was that serious. But the first time that I ran the controls, I did our introduction, and we kind of talked for a minute or so, and then we did read a PSA. I forgot to turn the mics off, hit play, and then so it's just music on top of us just talking for about 15 minutes. And then I realized that the mics were still hot, and so I was like, oh no. It was That's so awesome. I mean, it was a really fun time. Obviously, I don't know, Friday nights a bit lame. But it was fun that my mom listened every time.
Did you get to meet that? It was like Dickie the Jazz Man.
Yeah, I would see him during the day. He had some kind of day shift, and so if I was in that building, I would see him in the booth. But I never met him or anything.
There was this jazz guy that was on that channel, and he's like, "Now that was Toby Smith, and that was tap on the This Is Jazz."
Yeah. Well, so it's funny that you bring up other DJs too, because after our set, so at 10:30 to 1 or something, these other two people came in, and they did even heavier metal than we did. And the first time I met this main person, the other guy I never heard speak, or never spoke to him, but I was told about this other guy. And the only thing I was told that he had a British accent, and I was told that he was super into black metal attire. So he had black t-shirts with band, names on them, and then the black baggy pants that had 1,300 buckles that went nowhere, right? And so, do your thing, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He had really long blonde hair, and he wore red contact lenses. And so, I had heard about the contact lenses and the British accent. And so the first night that we did it, they were waiting outside when it was time to change sets. And so in my mind, I had kind of imagined what he was going to be like: heavy death metal, black, all black attire, red contact lenses to seem intense, right? And so I was imagining him going to greet us like, "Who the bloody fuck are you guys?" playing this stupid little metal music. You call that metal? And that's what I thought, right? Who the bloody fuck are you? And in reality, it was
just the peaky fucking blind.
He came out. He's like, "Oh, good evening, gentlemen. That was a lovely program you put on." What? I thought, who are you? And because obviously he had the black, he had the red contacts, the long blonde hair, but he was just so polite. Oh, that was a lovely program you put together then. And I didn't hear any studio music. How did you do that? And so yeah, when in my mind it was in fractions of a second, like, who the bloody fuck are you? To good evening, gentlemen. And so, I mean, he was really cool, right? He just, that was his awesome. That was his jam too. He obviously, cool. And then he did play really heavy death black metal, which, rock on, right? But he was cool. Man. So
different strokes for different folks.
Anyways, so like my college radio DJs, where I had probably one listener, which was my mom. Currently have one listener in the booth right now with me.
That's amazing that you have experience, because the only experience I had before we did the podcast was industrial tech in middle school, where it was either you learned how to do you learned how to do
holy
CAD
cow, I totally forgot about. Okay, are you going to talk about the newscast thing module? Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize you had a story about that, but I have a story about that.
Well, it's not that big of a story. It was just like, I remember just doing the newscast and recording, but they said that you could do music and stuff. So I remember I played NSYNC Bye Bye Bye. That was like the song I wanted, but then the thing ran out of space and it cut out. And so I had to start all over. And then I remember just going back in and be like, yeah, sorry about that. We lost the recording, but now we're back. And here we are to talk about this. But it was like, I remember that. I remember we did there was a CAD system that we did. And then we did CO2, like rocket cars. And that was.
There's also, we could make, do you remember making the little baseball bat keychain on the lathe? And then the bridges, we had to make the bridges out of the basically matchsticks. And so, okay, I have a story about the newscast also in industrial tech. So it was 7th and 8th grade, right? And then we had two different teachers.
How does that?
So 2 different teachers taught in the exact same room, right? There's one room for IT in this building. And I don't know if see, I don't remember exactly if the 2 teachers split both 7th and 8th, so they taught both, or if one was 7th, one was 8th. Yeah. Doesn't matter. The point is, 2 of them were there at all times. Maybe one would take a break while that classroom was being used, but the thing was they were usually both present, and they kind of hated each other, from what I remember, right? And so it was always awkward, and these 2 particular IT teachers were also strange, to be fair.
One was my
driver's ed, right? Yeah.
Driver's ed. Yeah.
So okay, so and when it was my turn to do the TV newscast thing, there was a booth that whoever wanted to be the newscaster sat in, and then there was this ante room where the camera was, where the camera operator also stood in, and so the booth with the person in it was kind of soundproof. There was a microphone in there.
Yeah. Right.
And then there was the door to the ante room, and then the door to the larger classroom. And I was really excited about this. So I put this whole script together. I found just some random newspaper clipping, right? And I wrote this script to be the news person because I wanted to do it. And then luckily the partner I had didn't want to be on camera, so she ran the camera. And we had to buy the tape. We had to provide our own VHS tape for this.
Of course.
And so,
what do you?
So a lot of work went into this. And then when it was our time to record, I'm sitting in there reading the script, and out of nowhere, the other teacher, so not the teacher that was in charge of us, right? He comes bursting
Right.
in. It's not his class. It's not his students, right? He comes bursting into the studio and says, God damn it. And it's like just starts cussing and stuff about the other teacher, ejects our tape from the camera and leaves. What? What could possibly have happened? We weren't his students. This wasn't his class period. And he came in grumbling about how all the microphone was set up. And so we didn't have anything to return in because he took the tape that we bought. And
that was my next thing I was going to ask is like, I don't even remember. How did we?
I don't have no idea.
Class?
And you know, there was another story. So that same year, I finished another module ahead of time, right? And so the thing was, you spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 days doing a module like the CAD thing, as Benny said, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You worked at your own pace with a partner. And so for whatever module we were on, this partner and I did all the work basically, and then we finished early, a day ahead, right? And so I told the teacher that, and he said, get started on another module. Okay. They're all full because everyone's still working.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I just went to an empty bay where there was no module and started doing homework. And 3 milliseconds before the class period ends, the teacher comes over and yells at us for not doing our work or for not starting another module. And I said, oh yeah, well, you know, I didn't want to disrupt anyone else in, you know, finishing up their module. And he said, this is the last straw. You have detention. And what? And he said, detention after school. And I said, okay, here, like come to back to this room. And he said, no, I'm at the high school. And I said, oh, okay, where do I go? He said, find me. And it was so bizarre. Is that same
like
teacher? So I didn't have anything to turn in for the newscaster thing because the other teacher took my tape. I finished the next module early and got detention for it. Industrial tech, so amazing.
I just
if the audience can picture a shop class, right? Because it's kind of shop, right? Sure, right?
I mean,
but this was, if you picture a shop
without being in a shop,
this was the only other thing we had. This was in a carpeted room. That always struck me as odd, is that it was just this, there was all this carpet around, right?
No, it didn't make sense. Yeah, it was just like, it was like a cubicles of like wood, like desks that wrapped around them. Yeah, it never made sense to me.
Man, good times. Middle
but,
school.
You know, yeah, it was fun.
Yep.
I don't know. It was just you talking about that. That college stuff. All I could think of was like, man, my only experience with this is middle school, sitting in a studio.
Well, we've come a long way since then, right?
Well,
it's professional.
Yeah, we have come a long way.
Outfit going on here.
But I mean, we've come from industrial tech to now we just talk about like Demolition Man and stuff. So, which is
Demolition Man
on its own pretty impressive. And that's the movie we were talking about this week.
You want to spit some facts at us?
I can. Yeah. Let's see. So obviously in this movie, GM just owns everything. All the cars and stuff. It's based. There's a section where it's like in the past, but then it goes into the future, and it's like 1970 442, and then it has this Buick Skylark, but they've turned it into like this futuristic looking vehicle, and then they also have like a couple other kind of futuristic looking cars, little pod cars things. I think we should just jump into it, and then we'll just.
Yeah, this movie is okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a synopsis?
Sure. I
synopsis for us?
Synopsis together for you. Okay. It's the year 1996. Judd Spartan is a loose cannon among the LAPD, but he always gets the bad guy. He's in hot pursuit of Simon Phoenix, who has taken hostage a bus full of 30 civilians. In pursuit of taking Phoenix down, Spartan ends up accidentally killing all of them and is sentenced to 70 years in a cryopenitentiary. 36 years later, Phoenix is up for parole and breaks out of prison. The only person that can stop him is John Spartan, and they defrost him to capture Phoenix. They both quickly realize the future is a strange, utopian, non-violent world that is unprepared for their kind. Spartan takes down Phoenix and eats some Taco Bell.
Nice.
Is that accurate?
That's basically the movie. I don't know if we need to talk about this or not, but
it's just so the opening scene is. It's just like everything's on fire in LA and you like fly over the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
And like,
so one thing the listener needs to understand at the start is that this is 1996. This was made in 1993.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I have that right? Okay. So it's made in 1993. Their imagination of 3 years into the future is that LA is a criminal laden wasteland. Hollywood is on fire. The entire city is overrun with crime, and the police force is a separate branch of the U.S. military.
They drive Humvees.
In 3 years, it went from just normal. I don't know what LA was like in the 90s, right? Maybe it was bad.
There were riots. I know that.
Okay. But this is apocalyptically bad in 1996 according to their imagination. Okay. But yeah, so it's Sylvester Stallone, John Spartan. Right? He's
these are the first 3 lines of this movie. There's a black pilot and he says, "Remember when we used to be able to land American or commercial airlines landed down in this town?" And the white pilot goes, "Yeah, I don't understand where we're going or why the hell we're bothering anyway." And then Stallone just comes flying in from the back and goes, "You're doing a good deed."
I couldn't understand what he said actually in that line. Oh. Yeah. So was that pilot? Was that the cop?
Yeah. Later on is a super old guy, and it's the pilot from that first scene. That's the only connection.
And super old, as in like he's maybe in his 60s,
right?
Or something.
I mean, 36 years older
maybe
than
70s.
when he was flying the plane, because that's the future.
There's some discrepancies with with a lot of this, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
And so it's the only person crazy enough to go after this this Simon Phoenix guy is the Demolition Man, right?
Yep.
But then after he catches Simon Phoenix, the angry police chief is like, "Enough with this Demolition Man," right?
Yeah.
He's the only person that can get it done. But his tactics are to get it done are not good enough.
Yeah.
Right. And so he goes in and he's in this, is it some mansion or something? It's some gigantic house thing that's already on fire, right? The whole thing is already basically destroyed. And he goes in,
but
and
he bungee jumps from a Chinook helicopter, and it like the thing doesn't even bounce.
But he gets whipped around though. He free falls from 200 feet above where he's going. He just flails around when he gets there, and then he just goes in with one pistol, gun, right? There's a tank outside and stuff and all this military, and he goes in with
he's got
one
his
pistol.
PP7 and he's going against the guys with Uzis, and he's just dropping them.
And so he goes and finds the main lair of where Simon Phoenix is, and Simon Phoenix is basically baiting him to come to him, right? Okay, so Phoenix is flooding this area with tanks of gas. There are barrels of gas, definitely. And he punctured a few of them so that the whole floor is flooded.
Yes.
Right. And so Spartan comes in, "You're under arrest." Right. And he goes, yo, dog, and gets this torch, this butane torch. And so in order to not get shot, his leverage, a la Battlefield Earth, right? The leverage that he has is to kind of, he puts the torch on the gas, right? He keeps waving the torch around, threatening Spartan, and he's waving it around on the gas. And so Spartan backs off, puts his gun away, or throws it, maybe, I don't know. And then Simon lights a cigarette and then immediately lights the whole thing on fire. And then it doesn't matter because they still have a fist fight. And so it never mattered that the gas was on fire.
So he flicks the cigarette, and Stallone's wearing leather gloves and holding a gun. One flame hits his hand, and he goes, just drops the gun.
This geyser of fire directly underneath his hand. But it makes him flinch his gun away. But then they just have a fight, a full-blown fist fight amongst the gas fire, right? That's doing nothing. And Simon runs away somehow, and then it pans to, there's these other barrels labeled C4. Did you see that? Of course. So C4 is not a liquid, right? Probably not ever found in barrels. And cannot explode it cannot detonate from explosions like gas. And so he runs away. He asks, the whole point of him going there was there's apparently these hostages.
Yeah, that was
and when he says you're under arrest, he says, where are the hostages? And he said, no, they're not here. And he goes, oh, okay, you're under arrest. And then he gets away. Yeah. The entire building explodes all at once. Gigantic explosion while Spartan is still in it, running away. Huge, like obliterates the building while he's still in it, and then he just walks out. And then the police chief says, you shouldn't have blown that up. He didn't blow it up. Yeah. Right. Simon would have blown it up anyways, and he always gets the blame for being this demolition man when he never explodes anything. And so he walks out, and then Simon says, oh yeah, all the hostages were in there. And Spartan's
what?
Like, what? And then this fireman comes out saying, there's bodies everywhere. And whatever. So he gets sentenced to jail. This is 1996. And the jail is this cryo freeze pod thing where they preserve the criminals,
I guess,
rehabilitate their mind through, I don't know, some kind of irradiation or something.
I guess.
And then they're out for parole later. This is 1996, and they have this cryo technology, right? Okay. He's sentenced to 70 years in cryo jail. Okay. Simon gets woken up in 2032.
Yep. 36 years later.
So 36 years later. And it's this LA only, right? The rest of the world, who knows?
Yeah,
the rest of America, who knows? LA is a utopia of peace and prosperity.
I can't imagine it would transition that quickly, but I don't know.
Okay. There's peace and prosperity. There's a gigantic police force, right? Yeah. In this completely peaceful town,
right?
For some reason, it needs all these cops. But all of the people there, it's only 36 years later, and all of the adults can't imagine what it was like before this utopia when they were all still alive.
It didn't make any sense.
Especially the now current police chief is in his 50s or 60s or something.
Yeah.
And it's incomprehensible to him, the actions of John Spartan when he was, I don't know, 10, 20, 15, something like that. He was clearly alive at that time.
Yep. Obviously had seen stuff that had happened.
Yeah. And everyone else in the police force was alive during the time that before it was a utopia, and they act like they've never heard of anything. It's only been 36 years. But anyways, so Simon gets let out, and then he has all this ability.
Well, yeah,
when he wakes up, he knows how to hack.
Yeah, he knew the secret code to get his stuff off, and it was teddy bear. So he's up for
Yeah, it was just
parole.
this audible
Yeah,
cue,
he
right?
just says teddy bear, and all of a sudden everything comes off,
Yeah.
and then he just starts killing everybody, like karate chopping.
He just starts killing
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, and he leaves, and then I don't know. The police force doesn't have any capability of dealing with any kind of danger or threat,
No, they
and so
it's like it's kind of it's like the fat people on Wall-E. Like they don't know what to do. They're just on this track.
oh yeah,
But
they ask this
they have this little
artificial
robot.
intelligence,
Yeah, they have
right?
this AI that they keep asking, like, what do I do? And it's like, speak sternly to him and tell him to lay down on the
Yeah.
ground. And they're like, he doesn't do that. And
Yeah.
it's like, step forward and repeat and do it again. Then he just beats the crap
Yeah.
out of him. And
Um,
it was just,
so they're completely unequipped.
yeah.
And so their only solution is to thaw the only guy out that ever caught Simon.
That's right.
So they do that,
Bad
and then
boy.
they yell at him for being who he was.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole time.
The whole
The
time.
whole time.
I
I mean, it's
and so I don't know.
there's so many like weird things. So one of the things they talk about, like when they're bringing John Spartan back, is like he had 1,000 arrests in 3 years, and then they just sit there and it's like it reminded me of Austin Powers, because they like take a laser and just kind of go around his body to just thaw him, and like
Yeah.
and it was weird because like every single person obviously was a man that was like frozen, and it was like there's just this
Yeah.
blackness where their crotch is. And it was just such a weird thing. But it was just showing like they were showing like the tracing of the laser to show like, oh, we're cutting him
Mhm.
out or something, and then all of a sudden the next scene is he's thawed, and he wakes up, and the
Yeah.
first thing he talks about is, where's my wife? Where's my daughter? And you're like, what? Like, where was the
I know,
story to
right?
this? Like,
Okay. And the other thing is, they told him he was going to be frozen for 70 years.
right.
Right. And the first thing he asks is, how long have I been out?
Yep.
I get I think he asked that first before
Yeah.
asking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
his
yeah,
family, because I guess that makes sense if he thought that he may be up for parole at some point. But if you go in knowing that you're going to be 70 years in the future,
Mhm.
right? When you wake up,
Yeah.
and the first thing you do is ask if my wife is still alive.
Yep.
When she was probably 40 to start with.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, but like you said, there was he willingly did this too.
Yeah.
So he willingly was fine with being put in jail. And I don't know, he could have, to explain this, there could have been a 1 second line saying, say hi to my wife or something, or
Yeah.
take care of my wife,
No, exactly.
to preempt this. and then he says it out of nowhere, and then it's just gone. It just didn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it was just like this funny like throwaway line, but it also was like he was obviously distraught about it at the moment. And I was like, what? Like,
For a
what
second.
happened? Like,
Right.
where did this come
Yeah.
from? Like he
Yeah.
mentions it one other time later on
About his daughter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then he says, "Nah, I don't want to see her."
I don't want to see her. So
Right? He was all upset at first, right? And then he said, "I should go see my daughter, but you know what? She's probably going to be like, not want to see me because she's going to be like all these other people." Well, clearly she was alive at the time that he went in,
Obviously.
right? So he again would have known what it was like.
gosh.
So you know what? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go see her.
Yeah. But
so okay,
after this
they
is
thaw him out.
after he gets thawed, it's like the first thing he wants to do is take a poop. And he's talking about that there's no toilet paper and there's 3 shells. And
Yeah.
multiple times they
And they'll-
talk about the 3 shells, and that
They never
you
explain it,
never
right?
explain it. Yeah. Like
Yeah, so it's just a joke, right?
Yeah.
So they it's just a way for them to dunk on him for not knowing how to use the 3 shells.
right. They just keep making fun of him like
Right.
he's supposed to know what to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of funny, and it's kind of funny that they never explain it, that it's just this stupid future thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can't swear, you can't do anything. Okay, we should talk about the Taco Bell thing.
Oh, sure.
So part of this utopia is that in order to be utopic, I don't know, is that a word?
Close enough.
There's everything bad is illegal.
That's right.
Swearing is bad, or swearing is illegal. Smoking and drinking and eating unhealthy foods is illegal.
Having sex is illegal unless you have a license too.
Helmet thing,
and
right?
A helmet. Yep.
Yeah, you need a helmet.
Procreation, you have to have a license. Let's say that.
Yeah, and so they mentioned something about how in 2010 there was this giant earthquake.
Yep.
And then basically the world blew up or something, or at least LA did. And the only thing that survived, actually they called it the franchise war.
Franchise wars.
So then at some other date, there was this franchise war.
Yeah.
At least in LA. And the only restaurant chain to survive was Taco Bell. And so from that point on, every single restaurant is just Taco Bell.
Yep.
And which is, I think, a bit ironic considering that unhealthy food is illegal and the only food to get is Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And but then the servings were
all restaurants are Taco Bell. It's not even just like every restaurant that's imaginable.
Yeah.
One thing that was funny that I learned about is, so outside of the US, they didn't have Taco Bells back then, so everything was changed to Pizza Hut. So they CGI'd took out Taco Bell, and then they put in Pizza Hut.
Oh man.
To make it so it was noteworthy. But I just thought that was, that's funny. Of all things.
And the other thing about, so there's this other cop. So Sandra Bullock is one of the main characters, and she's obsessed with 20th century memorabilia,
movies, and just anything. Yeah.
It's kind of like culture. How people like the 50s or something. She likes the 20th century.
Yeah.
Okay. The other, I'll stop talking about this. She was born in the 20th century, right? They were all born in the 20th century.
Right.
And they clown on her for having this infatuation with that period of time when they're all born then.
Yeah.
So it's just so stupid.
Well, she
and then the three seashell thing, they're all clowning on him about not knowing how to use the seashells, and they're he uses toilet paper. They all used toilet paper. They all know what that is.
Yeah, right.
They all would have used that.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
So
they didn't care. Yep. It didn't fit into the script. One of the things that was funny, Sandra Bullock throughout this movie reminded me of me, because she always would flip words and phrases.
Oh yeah.
So one of them, she was like, and she meant to say, well, he's met his match and you kicked his ass. And she said, you really kicked his meat and licked his ass.
Yeah.
But
so some of the script is pretty funny.
Right? It is funny. And like that was this reminded me of a perfect 90s like Stallone movie, because a scene before they go to Taco Bell and stuff, which we need to talk about with Taco Bell. It makes no sense. So Simon Phoenix is on the run, and they're like, you know what? We should just go to Taco Bell and have dinner tonight. Yeah. Like this maniac is on the loose. Yeah. They're going to Taco Bell.
Yeah. So what precipitated that was Simon, Spartan says, well, he's going to go find a gun. Right. So they thaw him out and say, where's Simon going to be? Right. If you're such an expert, where is he going to go? And he said, well, he's going to go get a gun. And they all laugh at him. And he said, no, he's going to go get a gun. And the only place to get a gun was at a museum. So Spartan goes to the museum where they have all these guns. And sure enough, he just walks up and gets the guns. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of guns and ammo just laying around. And he just picks one up, essentially. And then there's this huge gunfight between those two in this museum, and they crash around and they blow the whole thing up, basically. Meanwhile, Sandra Bullock and the other cop are just not there, right? They both go with him, and then they're just not present for all of that, and then they meet outside. And so then Simon Phoenix escapes. Randomly runs into the overlord of this whole town. He's not the mayor, but he's the person that created the utopia through this psychological manipulation type thing.
Yeah, Dr. Cockwad.
His name was something like that, right?
Doctor, it was Doctor.
Dr. Dickweed, right? And so
Yeah.
it turns out that he is the one that implanted cocktoe cockweed. This guy is responsible for implanting all these skills and abilities within Simon, ostensibly over the course of decades, right? Preparing, I guess, for the need for a criminal to come out at some point in the future. And so he's the one that released him essentially and organized or orchestrated him to be let loose. And so the other thing was that he impressioned some kind of inability for Simon to kill him. And so he tries shooting at him when he leaves the museum. Can't do it. Can't kill him. And John Spartan's in the background. He's running up. He just starts shooting in that general direction, right? He's the one that almost kills Dr. Cockwad, right? And then Simon runs away into a bush, and then Spartan just can't find him. And then that's the it. So then he's on the run then, and then the doctor says, let's go to Taco Bell and we can celebrate.
Go to Taco Bell. One of the guns that they find there is like this futuristic, it's called a magnetic accelerator gun. It's like a rail gun or like coil gun. And there was a prototype gun that actually a German make army had developed with this Heckler and Koch. But I just thought that was interesting because I was like, I had never heard anything of it, but it basically uses caseless ammunition. So it's the bullets without the shells. So I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting.
It's kind of funny that gun was a little bit funny because it took forever to charge up or something. And it was always a source of frustration for Simon when he was trying to use it. And then every time he charged up, he just completely missed every time he tried to use it.
Phoenix was the worst. I mean, everyone in this movie is the worst shot ever. Like, Phoenix was just unloading ammunition, and he just could not hit anything. Spartan again just has a pistol.
Pew,
pew, pew, pew. And Phoenix is running around with a magnetic accelerator gun, but
obliterating this entire museum, right?
But that magnetic accelerator gun reminded me of. So I used to ride the bus to go to elementary school, and we used to use our imaginations to play stuff on the bus. And like the last 10 minutes before I get dropped off, there's always there was only like 7 or 8 of us on the bus, but we were playing this game where we like pretend shoot each other and stuff. And it was one of the kids that was on the bus with us. We did I convinced him that he should use the gun that I had, and it was a condom gun. So we were sitting there
shooting 2 things, right?
Fire those condoms.
You thought, and he was all into it, right? I remember.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. And like, I don't even know why I thought that was a good idea. I was like 8 years old, but anyways, it was just this gun reminded me of it. I don't know why, but it was just one of those weird stories on the bus where you're like, hey, use my condom gun. This other guy's like, oh yeah, let's do it. They're firing condoms at each other. Pretend.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, so they get to talk. They do the Taco Bell dinner, and he's kind of just being a jerk to everybody because he keeps swearing, and everyone's savage, taken back by his savageness. But the whole time is this is a scene where I think you teased it because there's this associate Bob. You sent it to me, and but there's this associate Bob is Cockwad's second in command, and there's a line where he's talking and trying to talk about these ruffians kind of fly up from the sewers, and they're stealing food because they have no food down in the sewers. But these are all like the normal people who haven't been like trained that this is a utopia and stuff. Like there's still people who are suffering and all that other stuff. But he says a line, and you literally can't understand what he says. But I had to go back and I turned on the subtitles, and it says, the plans are in progress to pursue this peril. And I was like, what? But when you listen to it, it sounds like peril.
Yeah, I sent a. I went back when I was watching this and I took a video of it and I sent it to Spenny. It's like, what the fuck is he saying?
Also, every time these sewer people are trying to like scope
Sewer
out
rats.
what's happening, they shoot up a periscope looking around through the grass. It's just the silliest thing.
The other thing is that, okay, they're this clandestine sewer people that are secret, but everybody knows about it. Right. And the other thing is they in several times just are out walking around.
Yeah.
Too. And they're very obvious because all of the utopic people wear these ridiculous Star Trek robe type garment things, right? Full on onesie robe things.
Yeah.
And the sewer people are in Mad Max like leather vest and shoulder pad kind of stuff with spikes. That's the only clothes they have. And it's very obvious that they're all unwashed, right? And came from the sewer. And then so that's just fine when they're out walking around. But when they try and take food, it's this big deal. And they take Taco Bell pellets, right? Do you see that? That was their that was their score. It's just little balls of Taco Bell nugget things. And so it makes John Spartan have this kind of conflict now because he doesn't see them as enemies, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't see anyone as enemies that just need food, right? They're not criminals.
Yeah.
They're stealing stuff, but and so then he becomes conflicted, and especially in the light of he's already suspicious of Dr. Cockweed. And
Cockawaddle.
And so I don't even know what happens. I remember one thing when they were fighting in the museum. If you haven't seen a 90s Stallone movie or a 90s Wesley Snipes movie where there's fighting and stuff, there's so many one-liners, right? Especially during the fight scenes. One of my favorite ones was they're in this. So the museum is staged to show what life in the 20th century was, right? And so there's this TV sitting there, and they both run out of guns or something. I don't know. Their guns are whatever.
Awesome. Yep.
And so Stallone just picks up this TV and starts like lassoing it around his head with the power extension cord, and then just kind of whips it at his head and says, "Smile, you're on TV." And
you're on
kind
TV.
of misses him too. It missed him or something. It didn't even really hit him. And there were so many one-liners like that.
Yeah, the other one was that Simon is standing in water and Stallone's sitting on the back of a car, and he goes, "You forgot to say Simon Says," and sticks his little probe into the water and shocks him.
Okay, when the wire work on Simon was so insane because he's just picture someone standing up, right? And I don't know, I guess in a pool of water like he was, and there's an electric shock. He goes flying. His feet, they just didn't coordinate the wire work very well because his feet go straight up. So he goes perfectly horizontal from vertical, and then he moves forward. It's not concerted. He doesn't go forward at an angle. He goes flips horizontal and then moves. It looks so dumb. And then forward, right? Yeah, I think when most people do something, they fall backwards.
Right.
But he goes forward for some reason. And the Simon Says thing, that was Simon had used that once in the beginning, right? It was kind of this throwaway thing that he never used again. And then she forgot to say Simon Says, and it's so stupid. Did you I thought this was really funny. I don't know what this may, if you found stuff in your research, but I thought it was really funny them dunking on Schwarzenegger. Did you catch that bit?
And they're talking about the library and stuff. The
library and how Schwarzenegger was president at some point in the intervening years, and Stallone was all like, "I can't believe it. He would have done such a bad job," or "I can't even believe he got governor." And I don't know. Maybe it was just a kind of a joke, but it just seemed like such a random thing. And I suppose it was probably topical at the time. But
Yeah.
what a
There's
I don't know.
there was a lot of, I mean, there was so much stuff in this movie. Like, I don't know what it was, but people have a lot of little tidbits in it. There's also like, there's a part where Wesley Snipes just starts, speaking Spanish at the beginning, and like, there's no reference to like why he's like speaking Spanish or any way, but like that was just one of those tidbits where people people on set were laughing a lot because he would just start speaking Spanish randomly, and there was no connection to Spanish in any way, but just Wesley Snipes is walking around speaking Spanish. Just those specific lines that he had, but there's just that's so funny.
So okay, so somehow I don't even remember what happens next. They go to Taco Bell and then
it all ends up like eventually they get down to like the underground, like they're trying to find Simon because they know he's hiding down there. But there's a part where he Spartan is talking to Sandra Bullock's character, and he literally had knitted her a sweater, so he had been rehabilitated to sew. So he
was very pissed about this.
He was really pissed off. But the thing that's funny is like it's not like he really got reprogrammed. Mm-hmm. He just has a new skill. Like he
I know, right?
Now, but he still is a murderer. Killer police officer.
He's like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm a seamstress now, right? And it's just
I don't know the loop and the.
But the thing is, he already made the sweater, right? Wouldn't he be more pissed about wanting to make it? He already made it and he was fine with it, and then got pissed off about being reprogrammed, right? So
the line right before they go down into like the dungeon and stuff, Sandra Bullock has one of those funny lines again, and she goes, "Let's go blow this guy."
Just there was a I don't know, I thought this was funny. On the way, they were driving at some point the next morning, so they do the Taco Bell thing, and then they have this
this is when he has the
sex
sweater,
scene
right?
thing where he doesn't understand what's happening, and then she gets all offended by him thinking that they were going to have any physical contact in any way at all, right?
Fluid transmission.
And so he goes to his own apartment and then just hangs out, and it's the sweater. Then the next day they're in the car and he says, why don't you pull up the Simon file and find out why he knows how to hack and has all this strength and stuff. And so she pulls up his file on the computer in the car, and it says access denied. And she says, well, that can't be. And then she just pushes a button and has access to all the files, right?
Exactly. And she just pushes another button. It's like, so here is all his access.
And so why have that in there at all? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
And so I think we glossed over this in the beginning or earlier. The Dr. Cockwad thawed him out specifically because this king sewer rat was causing all this chaos and stuff and stealing all the food. And so the mayor wanted Simon to kill the sewer rat guy, sewer king. That was the whole purpose. And so despite Simon having
36 years of training to be a demolition destroyer.
And basically. So Simon breaks out, kills about 15 people in the process before he understands who he's supposed to go kill, right? And then he convinces the mayor, well, I can't kill him, I need more people. He specifically asks for 5 people, right? I need these 5 people thawed because they were also in jail. And he says, okay. And then the next scene is, well, a few scenes later, but the next scene with Simon in it is he's at the head of a table with about 20 people around it. and okay. And this ties into what Spenny says. They go into the sewers, Sandra Bullock, Stallone, and another cop. And they wander around, it's this whole city in the sewers. and they meet the head guy, and they talk about how Simon's probably going to go kill him and that he should be watch out. And then Stallone takes just 2 of their guns, just straight up. He just takes 2 of their guns from them without asking. And then it's this next scene where Simon's in this conference table with the 20 other people. He asked for 5. There's 20 now.
Right.
And that happens. So he's laying out this plan, right? Because Simon thinks that he can just take over the whole town, right? Because no one's going to stop him. And and so they're having this super top secret conference directly above where Stallone currently was. And then he just looks down and says, Stallone, "Oh, okay." So then just starts shooting at him.
Well, that's gonna be easier than I thought. Well,
and then
this is also where it was just Stallone goes down and he like finds out that they have burgers and beer, and he makes Sandra Bullock trade a Rolex watch to get a burger and a beer.
It was a rat burger. Yeah.
But then there's also randomly there's a muscle car down there, and I'm trying to figure out, like, the only way they get up is climbing up these ladders and elevators and stuff. It's like, how do you get a car down there?
Well, don't you remember? It was an elevator.
Oh, I guess he drove it out.
Well,
there's an elevator.
It was okay, so he sees the car right away, right? And that's cool. Obvious foreshadowing.
Pretty cool.
Obvious foreshadowing too. This is going to be in the movie sometime later. And Simon starts shooting at him, right? There's this huge shootout. Nobody dies. Nobody gets shot, despite them having hundreds of guns and 20 people and stuff. Nobody gets shot. And Simon escapes. And he says he's chasing Simon around these sewers, right? And at one point, Simon just climbs up these random vents and pipes and stuff and gets away. Well, there just happens to be this elevator switch thing right there,
hidden behind,
and it was to this huge elevator where the car was, way back where they first got into the sewers. And then the next scene is them exploding out of the ground on this elevator. That has it explodes out of the ground. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. There's nothing above this to bring it up to, right? Or from. This elevator just explodes from nowhere. And then they drive off, and there's this chase scene between the orb cars and this old muscle car. And
the Oldsmobile 442.
And the Spartan gets him out of the car. He does this classic thing where he's on the hood of his own car, and then he jumps to the other car, and then there's this battle thing, and then Simon has him pinned while they're driving. He's gonna scrape on the road, but then he does this judo flip thing, and then Simon just gets ejected, right? Going at 60 miles an hour, he gets ejected from this car. And then then Stallone just drives away because he can't figure out the autopilot, and then just launches into this pond thing. It just leaves Simon about 20 miles behind him.
Like when he launches in, like Jad's talking about, he launches into like the headquarters of the police station, and all of a sudden you just see like foam come out, and you're like, what is happening? It literally looks like just like insulation foam just had coated the car as like a safety measure or something. But the Oldsmobile 442 was this muscle car that's in this chase scene. So the other cars were from GM, and they were a bunch of concept cars. One was called this Ultralight, and it's this concept that had 100 mile per gallon concept car. But they spent they loaned $69 million worth of cars for this film.
No way. I thought they were
69.
Why would they give them the actual cars? Why not just have some kind of kit car thing, right? With just a shell around it.
Some of them were like concept cars, and then they had replicas, but $69 million worth of cars for this, which is a perfect point to talk about. So before we finish this movie off, so the budget on this was $57 million back then. So it's about 116 in today's numbers, but the box office, it was 58. So 119 million. So it did not. I mean, it broke even from budget to box office, but with marketing and stuff, it did not do very well. But it was just, I mean, after he crashes in the foam, Wesley Snipes. Is this where he goes and kills Crocodoc or Cockdoc or whatever? Okay. So there's like the 6 guys in a room, and Wesley Snipes obviously can't shoot him because he can't. So he just throws the gun to Jesse Ventura, which is one of his henchmen, and just shoots him
right away.
And then they throw him into the fire.
Okay,
right?
I forgot about one funny thing. Okay, so the headquarters of this doctor, he in one of the first scenes that you see him in, he's having this board meeting, right? And he's the only one present.
Yes.
Everyone else is virtual. And it was kind of a cool concept because everyone was on their own screen, sitting around this table on little pendant robot things. And they would all turn to watch him as he walked around the table, and whatever. That's kind of cool. A cool concept for what actually ended up being, kind of the future and the reality of the last 2 years anyways, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Stallone goes to confront him about something at some point, right? Because he's at this point, he was convinced that he let out Simon, that the doctor let out Simon. And so he goes to confront him.
Yeah.
And he goes into the conference room where you saw him before. And it's the doctor on all of the screens on the pendant robot things around the table.
Uh-huh.
And so he asks the henchman, the assistant, where he was. Bob. Right?
Bob.
Oh, he walks in and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see you in person." Right? Well, it turns out he's just in the next room. He's literally in the next room.
He's Wizard of Oz.
In what are behind glass walls. Right? And you can almost even see him just outside of frame because he's talking to him on the robot screens. And then the next scene, he just has a gun to his face.
Hear him through. You would just hear him through the glass.
But you don't necessarily realize this right away until the next scene when you see those two. The way it's framed is then you just see the conference room just right next door behind a glass wall. Right. And they walk through the room they were currently in to get to that conference room. So they would have seen him.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. So they now it's like Simon's in charge, right? Or the main guy is dead, or the main utopic guy is dead. And so then there's this battle. So
Simon's going to the cryo penitentiary, and he's trying to get all the everybody released. Right? And one of the funny lines was, he's like, "Jeffrey Dahmer, I love that guy." And so this was filmed in 93, 94. Jeffrey Dahmer, I think, is put to death.
Yeah.
So it was some missing there, but it was funny to hear him talk about that.
So they staged this final battle infiltration thing, right? Because Stallone knows he's going to be at the cryo jail. All the sewer rats show up, right? The 100 or so sewer rats show up to help, right?
Yeah.
And then Stallone takes one of their guns for a second time. One gun.
Yep.
Right? He takes one gun, and then he goes in by himself, and you don't see the sewer rats ever or anywhere. So they show up in this massive mob to help him out, and then they're just gone.
There was so one of the things that I researched on was so 2 times was like Wesley Snipes, and then the final when they were having the sewer battle, and then also when they're in the cryo prison. Like there was so much film that they shot, but they ended up having to cut down to fit the film. So there's a part where Spartan and Sandra Bullock are both shooting at some of these guys that had come with Simon, but they killed 2. But then there's no other guys left. So there was supposed to be 6. They actually had a sequence where they shoot them all or kill them all, but they just cut it from the film, and they just moved into this next battle at the cryo place. So you only see 2 people get killed, but then all of a sudden it's just Simon by himself with nobody else to help him. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
It just doesn't make any sense. And So there's the final battle is kind of funny, just with the whole set. I guess is kind of impressive with all the cryo chambers and stuff, and the giant robot arm, and he picks him up and whatever, and basically he Stallone blows the entire facility up, right? True to his name.
Yep.
Demolition Man. He blows the entire thing up. And after freezing Simon.
Yeah, that it's like a little pellet that once it hits contact just freezes anything it comes in contact with.
Yeah.
And yes, Simon just happened to be standing on the ground when it hit, so it froze his whole body, and then Stallone just smacks his head off.
Yeah, he cuts it in half or something, and then it just kind of breaks apart as an icicle. And I don't know. Then the movie ends, right?
It's the the explosion. Everybody comes.
Yeah, then the sewer rats come back, right? They show up to help out, and they are only there at the end after it's done.
I mean, you don't know what he was doing.
But basically, it's Taco Bell for everyone.
There was multiple times. Yeah, but there was multiple times during that battle or after that battle. There was just like these frozen like cubes are like spinning around, and it's just like butts and
it's all these frozen people around, right? So Spartan not only kills Simon, right, but he blows up everyone else. So all the prisoners that were there who like him may not have deserved to be there are just gone, right?
Dead. But that's basically it. That's the end of it. But so the seashells. During an interview with Stallone, he stated that the idea behind the 3 seashells were 2 seashells were supposed to be used like chopsticks to clamp together and pull out the waste of the body, and the 3rd one was used to scrape out the leftover. But it was never explained, nor explained how it was cleaned or sanitized in between. But I just thought that's awesome. Hilarious, because they make mention of it like 3 or 4 times, and it's just 3 seashells next to a toilet, and you're like, what is this? So I was just glad to find that factoid. So
that's awesome. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid, but it was
it's pretty funny.
I gotta admit, I mean, all in all, this show was entertaining. So
I remember it being cooler, as a kid when it would come on TBS or whatever. But these were it's just dumb.
It was dumb. I mean, it's a classic action show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Still thought it was.
Well, what are you gonna rate it then?
But this is the Ascension to 10 podcast. I think I ended up enjoying this. This one stood up more than other films that we've reviewed recently, and I thought that was pretty funny. I'm giving this a 5.8.
5.8? What?
Yeah.
5.8. That's okay. This is as good as Bright then for you.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is better than 13th Floor. I'll give you that. It's better than Mars Attacks. I'll give you that. Very interesting. That's pretty generous, I thought.
I'm talking you up. I if it was on again, I would watch it. I thought it was funny. It was enjoyable.
All right.
So I found the humor very enjoyable. Like, it was obviously very like over the top and all this other stuff.
It's kind of one of those things where back when cable TV was more of a thing, where you're flipping channels, right? When you have time to kill, you flip channels and it's on, and you just kind of stop flipping from that point on, right?
Yep.
Whether or not you last a commercial break, I don't know. That's kind of a thing. Yep. I gave it a 2. To me, this is as good as Iron Eagle.
Really? You think this
and
Iron
Kroll,
Eagle
apparently, I gave 2. I gave Kroll a 2.
Kroll. Man, this was far more entertaining. I can't say that. Well, I don't know. I felt this one was far more enjoyable than those.
It was shorter,
but
that was nice.
Shorter. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Okay.
Well,
all right.
Okay.
Well, should we update? We didn't talk about it at the beginning. We didn't do a short update.
Yeah.
For Fat Face Challenge. It kind of just it's just been.
It's
a
not
week,
even. It's been. We recorded last like 4 days ago, right?
Yeah. So there's
not much to say
to talk about. So we'll leave it at that.
Had some good workouts. We'll leave it at that.
Good for you.
I've eaten quite a few Oreos.
Twice.
My mom brought Oreos, and so. Yeah,
Kryptonite.
but you know what? It's been going okay. I'm doing single grabs, single servings, and.
You said that wasn't worth it.
Well, not single cookies. I'm doing like, a serving, right? Where it's just one. It's just one handstand. That's a serving, right?
Okay. Got it.
So I'm behaving myself.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
You've been slacking then, it sounds like.
I've worked out a couple times. I just
Well, what's going to happen next week? You're going on vacation. What's going to happen there?
Yeah, I can still work out.
I'll see. I mean, I'll be able to see.
Beach. Yeah, I'll go swim in the ocean. Go for a beach run and like Baywatch.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just try to, I don't know, dig to China or something. I don't know. Shovel.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
we'll figure it out.
It'll
be fun. But
yeah.
So next episode, we've been talking about this. I think we'll at least do one of these. I don't know if we'll be able to do both for the next episode, but we want to do. We're gonna say let's do Prey, and if we can get Predator in at the same time, we'll do it. We'll do a double feature. If not, we might have to separate them, but we'll see what we can do. Prey is the new Predator movie that just came out that's on Hulu, so you can check that out. And then Predator is the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The Alien versus Predator movies probably would fit well with what we've done here on this show. But we'll see. We'll see where this falls.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Well, I think that's it.
Well, that's it. If you have a recommendation or if you guys have any typical days stories, we didn't have one this week, but you can email us at boys@ascension2ten.com or follow us on socials at ascension2ten and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and find us on YouTube at Ascension To 10 Podcast. Jad puts up our videos on there.
Yeah, you may be watching us right now.
I think that's it.
On the YouTube channel.
Maybe.
At some point.
And thanks for listening. Thanks for
tuning in if you've made it this far. Okay. Goodbye.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Ascension to 10.